You're struggling to be consistent because you're lacking momentum. And you're lacking momentum because you're paying too much attention to detail and you're too organized and analytical for your own good, while not doing a good job supporting yourself properly. Now let me explain. I just shared this on my community call and I thought I have to make a YouTube video about this because it can genuinely change people's lives. I know it changed mine. Okay, let's look at this calendar. This is February 2026 when I'm recording the video. And let's consider how people usually look at their habits, their projects, their desired activities. How do people usually look at them in the attempt to be consistent? Now, let's pause for a moment and you think of your activity. Is it reading? Is it writing? Is it meditation, physical training, recording videos? Whatever it is, think about it. Okay, how people usually think of it. They have what they think is the standard. 45 minutes of training, 30 minutes of meditation, 5 pages of reading. And let's say February 3rd, I've done those, let's say 5 pages of reading. But then on February the 4th, on Wednesday, I did 1 page. So I will not tick the box or however, not leave the cross mark. On the 5th, I maybe do it again. Then a couple of days in a row, I will maybe read just 1 page or I will read 0 pages because I didn't establish a minimum with myself. And on the 10th, I will finally hit 5 pages again. And then maybe I will do it again on the 13th and 14th. And then maybe I will string together 5 days of showing up for my reading habit, but then I will do it just one more time before the month is over. So what is this? What is this? This is very little momentum. Momentum. What is momentum? So it's your subjective psychological experience of forward movement on a particular journey towards a certain goal while trying to implement a certain habit or practice a certain activity on a regular basis. I like to explain momentum like this. You are going to bed knowing that you showed up for yourself and you are waking up with the feeling that you are on a streak of days where you showed up for yourself, which makes you more likely to show up for yourself on that new day. Okay, here you don't have momentum. You have very little momentum. Going into the next month, into March, you have no momentum. This is from the community call. Okay, let me delay this. So here is no momentum, and as you're entering into March, because you look back at February and you're showing up here and there. Now, let's see how we can change this. First, what is the absolute minimum? The absolute minimum. You're all thinking in terms of standards. What is the absolute minimum? I will use the example of reading. My absolute minimum is going to be 1 page. So, whether I read 50 pages or 1 page, I'm going to mark it as completed. Now, here is the thing. I said you're maybe too organized and too analytical for your own good. For all of you having Notion templates and very extravagant, very detail specific tracking systems, good for you, but have a separate, stupid, simple, self-supporting, momentum building, psychologically encouraging tracking system. And this is it. I'm not going to track on this sheet how much I read or wrote or whatever. I'm not going to track the intensity or volume of showing up. I'm just going to count, did I show up or not? So if my minimum is 1 page, guess what? I read 1 page, I read 1 page, I read 10 pages, I read 7 pages, I read 30, I read 1, I read 1, I read 5, I read 3, I read 7, so on and so forth. Okay. Every one of these days, I read at least 1 page, 1 page, 1 page, 5, 10, doesn't matter, 50, I'm marking it the same. I'm marking it the same. Okay, what is this? This is momentum, friends. This is momentum. Because look now, when I'm entering the month of March, on the 1st of March, you know what kind of wave I'm riding? What type of psychological momentum I'm feeling? Because I look back on the previous month and I see this. I just see a ton of showing up. And here's the trick. for those of you overly analytical or those of you who haven't learned to be your own best friend, let me give you on a little secret because you haven't experienced this. Do you think that on the 1st of March, I'm going to think, I'm not sure if I feel encouraged. Let me check how much exactly I have read on the 12th of February. Or how much exactly did I write on the 17th or on the 3rd? No, you don't care. When you're riding this streak and you are moving forward and continuing to move forward, do you really think you're reflecting on any given day? Let me consider the intensity and volume of this streak. No. Now, to share a personal example, I started writing and sharing my writing online in December of 2019, and I've been writing consistently since then. Do you think that I care about the total word count of my writing in July of 2021? Of course not. What I'm left with is the streak and the identity. I'm someone who writes. The momentum. It's more difficult for me to not write than it is to write. Why? Because of momentum. Why do I have momentum? Because of this. I'm now not in Montenegro and I don't have my calendar with me. It's back home with my mother, where I was doing literally this. Stacking up days of showing up. Completely separately keeping track of the amount of writing that I've done, and the amount of reading, and the amount of training. And then for some months I wouldn't even track, I wouldn't even bother tracking anything more specifically than just did I show up or not. But for those of you who want to be precise, specific, analytical, strategical, all of that stuff, do the precise tracking, but have this as a separate, as I said, momentum building, encouraging type of tracking, where you absolutely don't take into account whether it was 1 page or 10 pages, whether it was one set of push-ups or a 1-hour workout. Completely disregard it in this type of tracking, because this is just to build momentum. Just quote unquote, this is only for building momentum, solely for building momentum. But there is no just in it, because this is way more important than your elaborate Excel spreadsheets or Notion templates. Way more important. Because once again, here I am. I have to brag a little bit. After 6 years of consistent writing, almost 9 years of daily training. I only didn't train on days where I was physically unable to get out of bed. Well, the nuance there is that I'm talking about this type of consistent training. Are there plenty of days where the training was 5 minutes of intense exercise? Yes. Are there days where I did only one set of failure of an exercise? Yes. Did I still count that as showing up? Yes. Do you think I care? Do you think I care really about someone out there saying, oh, that's not real working out? I don't care about it, because I'm riding a almost 9 year streak of regular physical exercise. I'm riding a wave of over 6 years of regular consistent writing. So I am in a position to say to myself, David, you are someone who writes. You are someone who is a physically active person. You're someone who shows up for himself. I'm not stopping to think, let me look at the amount of reps that I've done, reps and sets that I've done in February 2003. I don't care. I just know that I'm a person who trains. So for you, overly analytical, overly, as I said, paying way too much attention to detail, too much for your own good, maybe you need to completely scrap that elaborate tracking system. But I will not ask you to do so. I will not ask you to do so. Keep paying attention to details, but do this as well. When I say paying too much attention to details, this is exactly the conversation that I had in my community, where a person who has a great capacity to show up for himself is paying too much attention to how much did he show up for himself. Was it 70% of his capacity, 60, 80%? No. It doesn't matter. It will matter at some point, and it matters for certain projects at a certain stage of a certain project. But if you're now at a place of struggling to be consistent, all that matters is this. Let's enter March. All that matters is this. Did I show up? 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 Show up. Show up. Okay. Well, how do I ensure that I show up every day? I negotiate with myself to set a minimum that I can meet. As I said at the beginning, you're all thinking in terms of standards. For me, the most ridiculous idea is that regular workout is 45 minutes to an hour. What are we talking about? What are we talking about? What are those standards where that's regular workout? And here is coming from someone who's been training regularly for 9 years and who is in above average physical shape. You have some shorts on this channel. A couple of years ago, I published some shorts of my training, and you can see on Instagram I have some workout videos. I would say it's a fair statement to make that I'm in an above average physical shape. And I'm going to tell you that it's ridiculous to consider 45 minutes to an hour a regular workout. Because you know what I think when I consider that? Well, am I able to repeat that day after day for years? You think that's regular? You think that's basic? You think it's basic to do a 45-minute workout 5, 6, 7 times per week? And I don't now want to consider overtraining. 7 times is too much. Okay, 5, 6 times per week for a decade. You think that's basic? Or are we talking about 0.5% of population who does that for a decade consistently, not skipping months, not going on a 6-month break every year or every couple of years? It's not basic. It's not basic to read every day for 30 minutes. When people say, my minimum is reading 5 pages. Really? You want to tell me that for the next year or so you're confident in your ability to read 5 pages every single day without fail? Amazing. I do think it's possible. But you have to think for yourself, is it the most helpful to consider that the minimum? Is it the most helpful? Because what I'm trying to create for myself is a situation where it's very difficult, even on a busy day, on a hectic day, on a day when I feel sluggish, on a day when I feel sad, when I feel maybe lonely, when I feel anxious, whatever, where it's very difficult even on such a day to not show up, Okay? So I'm trying to create an environment where I end up writing for 6 years, which I did. Once again, not trying to brag. And you could say, David, well, if your minimum was 1 sentence, which it was initially, when I started, December 2019, when I started, my ideal was, okay, let me present it like this. So my ideal was just don't fall asleep before writing 1 sentence. I was working a regular job. I had other things to do. And I told myself, even though I jumped into it pretty intensely, so I was writing way more than 1 sentence on most days. However, I said to myself, I want to shop every day. I want to build consistency and I want to build momentum. Well, just don't go to bed without writing at least 1 sentence. And that's how I started, and that's how I allowed myself to show up every day. Well, now you could say, David, I heard before you mentioned your 6-year writing streak, and now it doesn't seem impressive anymore because there were many days where you wrote just 1 sentence, or there were many days where you wrote just 5 sentences. Your writing streak is not impressive anymore. Fair enough. But that writing streak and those days when I wrote just 1 sentence allowed me to write over 400 long-form pieces on Substack, over 2,000 short-form, but not really short-form, carousel, because my writing on Instagram really isn't short form. It can be in terms of word count, it can be a newsletter easily. Over 2,000 pieces on Instagram. The preparation that I've done here for YouTube is what is now allowing me to be on a 83, 84 day streak of daily videos. So maybe someone is going to say, it's not really impressive, some of these videos are 5 minutes long or 6 minutes long. Well, when I reach a point where my library of videos consists of 1,000 videos, do you think I'm going to care about the fact that one video was 6 minutes and wasn't the most precise? Not saying that I want to neglect quality, but the point is, this looking in retrospect, the streak isn't so impressive. No one does that. No one does that. And if you want to do that towards me, I'm completely fine. You can say, David, it's not impressive writing streak 6 years. If you had days of writing one sentence, I will allow you to think that and to say that. But what matters is how I perceive my journey and my forward movement and what I'm doing with it. Well, again, what I've done with it is over 400 long form pieces and over 2,000 unique pieces that are short form but could be translated easily into long form in terms of word count, and continuing to write. And as long as I'm alive, I will be writing, and probably I'm going to write some long form stuff. Hopefully some of it is going to be read by some of you and is going to impact you positively. And many of those mini days were needed. Many of those days of one sentence or 10 minutes of writing, many of those days were needed to build up that consistency, to build up that momentum. So my challenge for you is get a physical calendar. Don't do it like this. Get a physical calendar and start tracking just did you show up or not. So I don't want to see this. I don't want to see this. Okay, let me mark in green when I did it on a high level. Let me mark it in blue when I did it on a medium level, and let me mark it in purple when I did it on a mini level. No. That is useful for some later point. Now you're in the process of building initial momentum and consistency. For you, one symbol and one color. Because the only thing that you're counting is did I show up or not. And you're going to help yourself show up by setting the minimum low enough. And I want you in a month, okay, this is now looking really messy, but I want you in a month, okay, let's look at February because it's more clean. Well, it's not more clean, definitely. In a month, I want you to look at your calendar and have a streak of just showing up. Okay, that's the challenge. Get a physical calendar, start tracking just did you show up or not, and help yourself to show up by setting the minimum level low enough, which doesn't prevent you from setting a standard or full version or medium version higher. But you have to have your fallback minimum version low enough so that you can show up every day. Get the calendar, start checking just showing up or not, set the bar low enough so that you do show up every day, start building that momentum and consistency. Thank you, stay strong, love life, never feel sorry for yourself, help yourself to show up, light that raging fire in your heart, and always go beyond. Thank you.